I moved to this small mountain town about 3 months ago. I wanted peace. The city felt too loud, too chaotic. I thought an old cabin surrounded by snow-capped peaks would help me focus on my graphic design work. I thought it would be perfect. One evening, I settled into my routine. My desk lamp cast a warm glow over my sketches. It felt calm. I was deep into my project when I heard its soft knocking at the door. I paused and looked at the clock. It was late. I opened the door, expecting someone standing there. Instead, it was just darkness outside. I shivered. Maybe the wind was playing tricks. I shrugged it off, went back to work, but a cold draft lingered. A few nights later, the knocking returned. This time, it was more persistent, rhythmic. I felt uneasy. I kept telling myself it was the house settling or a branch tapping the wall. But with every knock, my heart raced. I glanced outside, half expecting to see someone. There was no one. Then I noticed something strange in the snow around my cabin. It wasn't just footprints. There were odd patterns, like someone had been pacing. I felt my breath catch. My hands trembled as I stepped outside. I needed to see. But there was nothing, just empty snow and the echo of my own footsteps. Standing there, I felt like I was being watched. I thought I was imagining things. Then one morning, I found a small sketch on my porch. It was crude but unsettling. It looked like a figure staring back at me. I wanted to laugh it off, think it was a prank. But deep down, I felt fear settle over me. I was alone, isolated. I started asking around town, hoping for answers. But when I asked about the strange happenings, people looked away. Their eyes darted toward the windows, like something was out there. I felt even more alone. Was I losing my mind? The knocking came again one night, louder than ever. I froze. I knew I had to face it. I took a deep breath and opened the door. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. Silence. Then I heard a noise behind me. My heart dropped. I turned around and saw something move in the shadows. I gasped. A chill rushed through me as the door slammed shut on its own. I felt trapped. I never felt so alone in my life. The next day, I found another drawing on the porch. It was of me, standing at the door. My eyes were wide, and my mouth was open. I felt a sense of dread seep into me. That night, as the knocking started again, I couldn't resist. I had to find out what was happening. I opened the door once more. The air felt heavy. I stepped outside, still holding my breath. But what I saw made me question everything. There, in the snow, were fresh footprints leading away from the cabin. The designs in the snow twisted unnaturally, and I felt a surge of panic. I wasn't alone. Maybe I never was. I stood there, staring at the footprints. They trailed off into the thick forest, disappearing into a patch of shadows. My instincts screamed at me to retreat, but curiosity pulled me forward. I had to know who or what was out there. As I followed the tracks, my breath became shallow. Each crunch of the snow beneath my boots felt too loud in the stillness. The trees loomed over me, casting long fingers of shadow that seemed to reach out, pulling me deeper into their embrace. I could feel the unease creeping into my bones. The air grew colder, and I shivered, wishing I had packed heavier clothes for this expedition. The footprints twisted and turned, almost as if they were leading me away from safety. I hesitated but pushed forward, tracing the strange pattern in the snow. My heart raced when I rounded a tree and stumbled into a small clearing. What I saw made me stop in my tracks. There, in the center, was an odd structure made of branches and stones, forming a crude altar of sorts. It looked abandoned, but something about it felt alive. I approached slowly, drawn in by a force I couldn't explain. Scattered around the altar were more drawings, just like the ones I'd found. They were etched into the dirt, clearly old but still visible. The same figure, the one that had been stalking me. Its eyes seemed to bore into mine, as if it were warning me. Or maybe challenging me. I felt a knot of dread tighten in my stomach, when I heard it, a soft giggle, tinkling and childlike. I whipped around, scanning the trees. "Hello." My voice trembled. Silence. Just the whisper of the wind among the branches. I backed away from the altar, my mind racing. Was it a prank? A game by the locals? It felt too sinister for that. The drawings, the knocking, the shadows, it was all too much. I needed to leave, but I was still focused on the strange patterns in the snow. As I turned to hurry back, something caught my eye. There, half hidden beneath the snow, was a small wooden totem. It was carved with the same figure from the drawings. I knelt down to inspect it closer. It felt cold against my palm, and I shivered. Instinctively, I looked over my shoulder, expecting to see someone watching me. I quickly tucked the totem into my pocket and turned back to follow my footprints, but they were gone. All the tracks had vanished, replaced by fresh snow. Panic shot through me as I realized I could easily get lost in the woods. I needed to get back to the cabin, but there was an unsettling sensation in the pit of my stomach. As I made my way through the trees, a sudden rustle behind me jolted me. I spun around, heart racing. But again, there was nothing. Just the emptiness of the woods, the shadows watching, waiting. That's when I heard it again, the giggle, closer this time. My breath quickened. Someone, or something, was out there with me. I ran. But as I sprinted back, every sound of my footsteps seemed to echo through the trees, and the giggles grew louder. They were following me. The forest felt like it was closing in, and I knew I wasn't alone. I stumbled through the underbrush, branches clawing at my clothes as I pushed forward. The giggles followed, swirling around me like an invisible storm. My heart pounded in my chest, and each breath felt like ice. I had no idea where I was running, just that I needed to get away. The trees blurred past me, their shadows twisting like specters in the twilight. For a moment, I thought I saw a figure darting between the trunks, but it vanished before I could focus on it. Was I imagining things? The fear like fire in my veins surged, pushing me faster. I burst through a thicket and stumbled into another clearing. My breath came in ragged gasps as I glanced around, searching for any sign of familiar ground. The clearing was bigger than the last, but it was empty, save for a handful of dead trees standing like sentinels. The ground was covered in a thick layer of leaves and frost, a deceptive softness that masked the dangers lurking beneath. Then I saw a glint of something shiny among the fallen foliage. I hesitated, my instincts battling my curiosity. 3 polished stones reflected the fading light, their surfaces smooth and inviting. My eyes darted around again, searching for whatever was following me. But the forest was still, the giggles quieted, replaced by a heavy silence. As I knelt down to grab one of the stones, a chill raced up my spine. It resembled a piece of art carved with delicate patterns and the same figure as the totem. This was more than a coincidence. I could almost hear whispers in the wind, beckoning me to take it. Ethereal and drawn in, I reached out. Suddenly, a sharp snap of a twig broke the stillness, and I spun around. My heart dropped as I glimpsed a shadow darting between 2 trees. I couldn't see any features, but I felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. There was someone there. The cold prickle trailed down my arms and settled at the base of my neck like icy fingers. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice wavering. No response came, just the growing weight of silence pressing down on me. I pocketed 1 stone and stood, scanning the edges of the clearing. I needed to keep moving. I turned back toward the trees when a voice, soft as the first autumn leaves falling, chanted from behind me, bring it back." My blood ran cold. It sounded innocent, almost childlike, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I didn't turn around to confront whatever it was, I ran again. The path I took was unclear, the trees closing in as the shadows grew deeper. The giggles returned, echoing around me, reverberating off the bark and lost within the twisted limbs. I almost stumbled when I noticed it a narrow trail that stretched ominously towards a deeper part of the woods. Something compelled me to follow it, but my mind screamed that I needed to escape. Yet I was tired, and the cold seeped through my clothes, weighing me down. With no other choice, I stepped onto the path, heart racing. Then everything went dark. The ground beneath my feet crumbled away, and I tumbled into an unknown void. I gasped for air but was met with silence and darkness, the giggles now smothered into nothing. My pulse echoed in my ears, filling the silence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had been following me was still very much present. I fell for what felt like an eternity, weightless in the pitch-black void. It was disorienting. Just when I thought I would never stop, I hit something solid. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs. I rolled to my side, gasping, the cold seeping through my clothes and chilling me to the bone. I lay there for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts. Where was I? I propped myself up on my elbows and squinted into the darkness, but nothing moved. Silence pressed in on me. I could hear the distant sound of my heartbeat but nothing else. Cautiously, I pushed myself to my feet and shuffled forward. My feet sank into a thick layer of moss or something equally soft. It felt wrong. No matter where I turned, the darkness enveloped me like a shroud. I pressed on, slow and uneasy. As I took steps deeper into the nothingness, I found myself straining to hear any hint of life. That's when I felt a warm breath on the back of my neck. I froze, a cold sweat breaking over my skin. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat growing. My instinct screamed at me to turn around, but I couldn't move. Bring it back, the haunting voice echoed in the chamber of shadows around me, and this time, it sounded closer. Panic surged through me. I willed myself to turn, to confront whatever waited behind me. I needed to see, to understand. Just as I stepped around to face it, the ground beneath me shifted again, and I stumbled backward, landing on my rear. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing. "Who is there?" I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. The only answer was silence, heavy and suffocating. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. Maybe there was still a way out. The darkness stretched endlessly, but I remembered the polished stone in my pocket. It had drawn me in, perhaps it could guide me back out. I reached for it, clenching it in my hand. A pulse of warmth spread from it, illuminating faint whispers of patterns on its surface. That's when I saw it. A shimmer in the darkness, a soft glow emanating from deeper within. I didn't want to go toward it, but something compelled me. It was as if the stone was calling to it. The voice returned, louder now. "Bring it back." I hesitated but felt the weight of the stone increase, a tide pulling me forward. Against my better judgment, I moved toward the light. As I approached, the shape became clearer, a figure standing still, shrouded in shadow yet unmistakably childlike. My stomach dropped. "What do you want from me?" The figure didn't move, but I felt the compound weight of unseen eyes on me, judging, waiting. "Bring it back," the voice whispered again, urgency laced with something darker. The glow flickered, and I could see the edges of the mystical stone in my hand. Confusion melded with fear as my mind raced. It wasn't just a stone. It held a power I couldn't understand. I was drawn to the figure, and it felt like I was losing grip on my reality. Then, the darkness shifted again, but this time, I wasn't alone. I felt the presence moving closer, something sharp and hungry. I glanced back to the figure, its eyes glinted with an unsettling familiarity that sent terror coursing through me. I was trapped, and whatever wanted me was growing more impatient that I turned and ran. The light flickered behind me, but I had to escape whatever this was. I pressed forward, but the shadows around me began to twist, contorting into figures that reached for me, pulling me back into the darkness, into their world. I couldn't let it end like this. I needed to find a way out before the whispers claimed me for good. I stumbled through the dark, my breath coming in frantic bursts. Shadows lunged for me, grasping and clawing as I fought against their pull. Each step felt like wading through thick mud, wrapping around my legs and weighing me down. I couldn't let them take me. I refused to be lost in this abyss. The soft glow that had beckoned before flickered behind me. I dared to glance back, but the childlike figure had vanished, leaving only that foreboding whisper echoing in the void. Bring it back, bring it back. I felt the stone pulse against my palm, refusing to let me forget it was there. I pressed forward, desperation sharpening my focus. Blind instinct drove me, urging me to keep moving. If I could just reach that glow, maybe I could find an escape. But with every step, the darkness thickened, narrowing my path. I felt the edges of panic closing in, and the shadows morphed into grotesque shapes that taunted me as I ran. Then I heard it again, a rustle in the gloom, like footsteps padding softly on moss. I froze, my heart pounding. Is someone there? The silence answered me, even more oppressive than before. With no time to lose, I turned back toward my original path, but that flickering light was swallowed by the gloom. The surface beneath my feet changed, shifting from moss to something rougher like jagged stone. I stilled, my breath hitching. I could feel warmth radiating from the stone in my hand, casting a feeble light. Right before me, I saw an archway, a break in the dark leading somewhere deeper. Bring it back. The voice roared now, a cacophony of screams mixed with a child's plaintive wail. I needed to move. Whatever was behind me didn't have to take me if I could just find a way through. That I stepped into the archway, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The passage twisted and turned, and I pressed onward, adrenaline surging through me. The light from the stone brightened, illuminating crude carvings on the walls. Shapes of unknown creatures danced along its surface. My heart sank. These weren't mere decorations, they felt like warnings. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath my feet. I stumbled, nearly losing my balance. A chill washed over me, an eerie sensation that something massive was stirring just beyond my sight. My instincts shouted for me to run, but I took another cautious step forward. It was curiosity mixed with dread that urged me on. Then, I saw a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. The light was brighter now, swirling like a portal enticing me closer. But beside it hovered a silhouette. I squinted, heart racing. It was shaped like the child from before, only larger, and it seemed to be beckoning me forward. Bring it back. The urgency of the plea twisted into a command, resonating deep within the shadows. Fear gripped me as I realized this figure wasn't offering safety. It wanted something from me. I needed to decide: step boldly into the glow or retreat back into the unknown. Before I could fully process my options, the ground beneath me heaved again, and cracks spidered across the stone. I stumbled, the stone slipping from my grip. It clattered and rolled toward the light, and everything inside me screamed to chase after it. I hesitated, caught between the darkness and the beckoning light. In that moment, time seemed to freeze, and a new kind of urgency surged within me. I took a deep breath and lunged. I hit the ground hard, my heart racing. The stone rolled ahead, glowing like a beacon as it bounced across the uneven floor. I scrambled after it, hands outstretched, my fingers barely grazing its cool surface. Just as I was about to seize it, a powerful force pulled me back. No! I yelled, panic pushing me to my feet. I turned, breathless, looking for the source of the pull. The shadows writhed, shape-shifting, and coiling around my legs like overgrown vines. I fought desperately against them, but they clung on, dragging me toward the darkness. Let go! I shouted, but my voice echoed unanswered. The light from the stone flickered, dimming as it rolled closer to the glowing silhouette. Instinct screamed at me. I couldn't allow it to disappear. I needed that stone, it might be my only way out. I yanked free from the grasp of the darkness, tearing my legs from its grip, and lunged forward. With every ounce of strength, I bounded toward the stone. That commanding voice resonated again, clearer this time, sending chills down my spine. Bring it back. There was urgency in the command, as if my very fate rested on my choice. As I reached for the stone, the ground trembled violently, knocking me off balance. But I refused to fall. I caught the stone just in time. It pulsed with energy, revealing ancient symbols that glinted in the luminescent glow, stark against the obsidian backdrop. Whatever this thing was, it felt powerful. I hoisted it into the air, casting the light around me. Suddenly, I saw the figure clearer. It was a distorted version of that childhood ghost or whatever had initially appeared. Its large eyes were wide, almost hungry. The childlike features turned monstrous in the harsh light. "Bring it back!" It cried again, but its voice cracked, shattering the illusion of innocence. I stumbled back, realization dawning. This creature wasn't asking for something I owned, it was demanding something vital, something buried deep within me. My breath caught in my throat as shadows surged forth, emboldened by my fear. "What do you want?" I gasped. But my words fell silent. The air thickened, stifling me as I felt a wave of despair wash over the creature. It was longing not just for the stone but for something more profoundly connected to my past. The shadows pulsed, growing restless as if waiting for me to make the next move. With a sudden clarity, I felt a connection to the stone. A memory flickered in my mind, images and sounds I couldn't quite grasp. It was a piece of me, a part of a past I had locked away. I wondered if the whispers were not from the dark but from my own buried fears. "You want me to bring it back, don't you?" I whispered, feeling the rush of trepidation course through my veins. As if sensing my resolve, the shadows lurched back, retreating momentarily. The air felt charged, and my heart raced. But then a spine-chilling laugh echoed through the corridor, washing over me like ice water. "Bring it back!" The words conjured a terrifying urgency wrapped in the shadows. I glanced at the swirling light. What would happen if I relinquished the stone? Would the creature finally be at peace, or would darkness consume us all? I needed an answer. Before I could react, the ground shook violently again, and the shadows lunged. The light flickered, and in that moment, I knew I was running out of time. The shadows lunged aggressively, their tendrils reaching for me like dark fingers. The air crackled around me, a mix of electricity and dread. I clutched the stone tightly, its warmth radiating against my palm, providing a shred of comfort. "Stay back!" I yelled, but my voice felt small, swallowed by the chaos. I took a step back, instincts flaring as the shadows seemed to extend, sensing my fear. Their hunger felt palpable, and I had no idea what would happen if they got their hands on me or the stone. The glowing silhouette flickered, the monstrous face twisting in agony. "You must," it urged, but it sounded more pleading than commanding now. It was a raw, desperate call that reverberated in my chest. I made a decision. I had to understand this connection. Whatever I was facing was tied to my past, and I needed to confront it. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and focused on the stone. In its light, I could almost see patterns of my own memories fluttering, distant echoes of laughter, fleeting moments that I had forced myself to forget. "Okay," I whispered to the shadows, feeling braver than I had moments ago. "Okay, I'll bring it back." The words left my mouth, and the shadows paused, their movements hesitant, as if they were absorbing what I just declared. They seemed to hang in the air, waiting for a signal, searching for a way to respond. That's when I saw it, a memory flickering at the edge of my consciousness. My father's voice, calm yet filled with sadness. "You are the keeper, you must protect what matters." Confusion bubbled up again. Protect what? I had to remember more. Suddenly, the ground shook again, harder this time. I staggered, nearly losing my grip on the stone. The throbbing light burst brighter, and the symbols danced before my eyes. I felt a sharp pang, like something within me was awakening, something buried deep beneath layers of confusion and fear. The shadows rushed at me, but this time, I stood firm. I raised the stone higher. "I will not let you take me," I shouted, the fear morphing into defiance. The shadows paused again, and then I saw them retreat, just a fraction, as if testing the waters, but the monster was still there, its eyes flickering between desperation and rage. "You must," it hissed, its voice trembling as if it couldn't hold itself together, and that s when I noticed something, an object among the swirling shadows that bounded behind the entity. It flickered wildly as the stone's light flashed upon it. My breath caught as I realized what it was. It was a wooden box, ornately carved, worn with time. I had seen it before. The box. I gasped. I needed to reach it. I took a step forward, heart racing, as the monster's features shifted with recognition. As I moved, the shadows fought back, swirling violently as if to reclaim lost ground. The room felt like it was closing in, the walls pressing against me, the air thick with tension. That I reached out, the stone lighting the way as I lunged for the box. I could feel it, the connection, my past calling to me through the chaos. Just as my fingers brushed against its cool surface, the laughter returned, deeper and more sinister. "You can't bring it back," it echoed, and the shadows surged toward me again. Then everything went dark. I gasped as my vision returned, light flooding back with a sharp clarity. I was not in the shadowy space anymore. Instead, I found myself in a familiar room, the one I had grown up in. The walls were painted a soft blue, and the small shelf where I used to place my childhood treasures stood untouched. But something felt off. The warm glow of a lamp bathed the room, yet shadows still lingered in the corners, watching me. My heart raced as I stepped forward. "What just happened?" I whispered. The box was gone, replaced by a spacious emptiness that twisted my stomach. Then, I heard it. Soft laughter echoed, sending chills up my spine. It was coming from the living room. I moved cautiously, my feet heavy against the floorboards. "Hello?" I called out, my voice more uncertain than I intended. The laughter paused, replaced by a heavy silence that settled like fog. As I reached the doorway, I peered through, expecting to see someone I recognized. Instead, a group of shadows swirled around the room, indistinct forms flickering like candles. They danced around the furniture, pausing only to turn toward me, their movements fluid and unsettling. "Why are you here?" I breathed, trying to sound braver than I felt. The shadows didn't respond, but I sensed a kind of longing in their presence, as if they were waiting for something I had yet to understand. Suddenly, the air shifted, and I felt a tightness in my chest. "I have to go back," I murmured to myself. I needed to find that box. It felt like a piece of me was left behind. But how could I face the shadows again? They had made their intentions clear, refusing to let me take what was mine. That I turned to leave, but as I did, a voice interrupted my thoughts. "You cannot escape your past," it said, smooth and confident. I spun around to find a figure emerging from the shadows, a woman, her features obscured but her presence dominating. "Who are you?" I demanded, fighting the tremor in my voice. "I am the keeper of the box," she replied, stepping closer, the shadows circling her feet. "You must give yourself to it, to restore balance." "Balance?" I nearly scoffed. "What does that mean?" Her laugh echoed through the room, cold and haunting. "You already know. Embrace it, and perhaps you will find the truth." "What truth?" I felt the walls closing in again. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and I felt a surge of energy racing through my fingers. The stone, I realized. I could feel its warmth through my clothes, urging me to act. "Stay away from me!" I screamed, raising my hands as if to shield myself, but the shadows advanced. Panic surged, and I backed away, remembering the way they reacted to the stone before. I had to use it. But then I froze. As I looked at the woman again, a sense of recognition washed over me. You're here because of the box." "Yes," she said, her smile unsettling. "And you're running out of time to make a choice." Before I could respond, the laughter erupted again, shaking the very walls of my childhood home. It wasn't just laughter, it was an invitation, a dark promise of what lay ahead. My heart raced as I realized my options were dwindling. I needed clarity. The box was the key, and I had to confront both it and the shadows. I took a deep breath, gripping the stone as I readied myself to dive back into the dark. But something else stirred in the back of my mind. Someone, or something, had noticed my fear. I turned sharply, catching a glimpse of movement beyond the shadows, a small, indistinct figure watching me with wide eyes. And that's when I realized this was about to become far more complicated than I had anticipated. I took a step back, heart pounding, as I stared at the small figure. It looked like a child, but the shadows twisted around it, obscuring its features. I wanted to run, but I was rooted to the spot, caught between fear and a strange urge to reach out. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to sound steady. My voice shook, betraying the unease that lurked just beneath the surface. The figure hesitated, glancing nervously at the swirling shadows. "Help me," it whispered, the sound frail and pleading. The very air around us seemed to pulse with tension, the shadows swirling more aggressively as if they were alive, hungry. "Help you?" I echoed, my instincts screaming at me to flee. "I don't even know what's going on. What do you want from me?" The childlike shape stepped forward slightly, its form becoming a bit clearer. I could just make out small hands reaching out toward me, fingers trembling. "You have to let the box go," it urged. "They won't stop until you do." My mind raced. The box had been something I'd buried deep. I had hoped to forget, to escape. "What do you mean? Why is it so important?" The shadows shifted again, and I took a step back, feeling trapped. "It's part of you," the child said, voice breaking. "But it's a part that keeps you from moving on. You can't ignore them." Suddenly, the woman who claimed to be the keeper moved closer, cutting off any chance of retreat. "Embrace what you fear," she urged. "Or be consumed by it. The choice is yours, but time is running out." Shivers raced down my spine. I didn't want to confront anything. I just wanted answers, but it felt like they were slipping through my fingers like sand. "Please." The child's voice cracked, pulling my focus back. "You don't have to be afraid. They just want to show you." Before I fully understood what was happening, the stone in my pocket pulsed again, sending heat through my skin. A flicker of hope surged within me, a desire to understand, to know. Just as quickly, a wave of uncertainty washed over, battling against my curiosity. What if I don't want to? I felt the weight of my decisions crashing down. What if I can't? The shadows loomed larger, almost forming walls around me, confining my choices. The laughter returned, echoing against the walls, pushing me to the brink. "That's when the truth will come to light," the woman said, her eyes glinting with something dangerous. I noticed that the shadows no longer seemed merely a background, they were merging, forming a presence, a force that felt both familiar and utterly foreign. With a newfound determination surging through me, I started moving toward the child figure. If this was about confronting my fears, I needed to know what was real. "Show me, then," I demanded, taking a breath despite the racing of my heart. "Let's see what you want me to find." As I stepped closer, the shadows encircled me, whispering in voices I could barely decipher. The laughter faded, replaced by an ominous silence. The child smiled, and in that moment, I felt something shift within the darkness, something that made my blood run cold. I was not just stepping into the darkness, I was becoming part of it. And that's when I felt a powerful chill creeping in from behind me, a warning that something dangerous was about to emerge. I woke up gasping, sunlight streaming through the window of my cabin, so bright and golden it felt unreal. My heart raced wildly as remnants of the nightmare clawed at my mind. I blinked, touching my face, expecting to find dirt or snow caked on my skin. But I was clean, feeling both heavy and lighter than air, as if I had crossed some ethereal threshold. The shadows from the night before, the shadows of fear and uncertainty that had consumed me, were now just memories, shadowy remnants in the corners of my mind. That I sat up, struggling to make sense of what had just happened. The forest, the voices, the child, That creature, I could feel its longing as if it was imprinted on my soul. I stumbled to my feet, still clutching the polished stone. It felt warm, even in the sunlight, pulsing faintly in my palm. Was it real? I glanced out the window, nervous to see if the world outside was still perched on a precipice of the unknown. To my relief, the forest seemed serene, sun-dappled snow glistening on branches. The cabin looked untouched, but the memories of what had transpired clung to me like mist. I stepped outside, bracing myself for the chill, for the echo of laughter, but all I heard was stillness. Birds chirped in bursts, and the air smelled like pine and earth freshly thawed. The forest looked so inviting, a stark contrast to the darkness I had just escaped. But the nagging feeling of being watched lingered that I spotted a few faint outlines in the snow. Convinced it was another dream, I bent down. But the footprints weren't leading away, they swirled in intricate patterns, like a dance frozen in time. My heart pounded. Why did they feel so familiar? It was unsettling to think of the children's giggles coming from those shadows, something that was no longer a distant nightmare but a feeling woven into the fabric of nature around me. As I stood frozen, a girl's laughter rippled through the air. I turned abruptly, expecting to see a child skipping through the trees, but instead, I found only shadows retreating into the thicket. I clenched the stone in my hand, wondering if it was imbued with the essence of the place where I'd encountered the creature last night, or if it was tied to something deeper, a part of my past I was only beginning to recall. Despite the peace of the mountain town, the lingering sense of not being alone prickled my skin. I wanted to flee, pack my things, and start anew, but part of me felt they were warning me of something. I shook my head, angry at myself for being swayed by fear. That evening, I drew the curtains and turned on the lamp. I set the stone down on my desk, letting its glow fill the room. Are they still out there? Are the memories still chasing me? With a deep breath, I poured my thoughts into sketches, my designs visually narrating the blur of shadows and light from the night before. Each stroke felt both invigorating and harrowing, releasing fragments of memory and imagination onto the page. I sketched the child and the shadow creature, their forms looming larger and softer in my mind, but then I paused, searching for resolution. It was as if one drawing called me to look deeper. I flipped over some paper to reveal the outlines of the box, the very one that had escaped my grasp, the one now simply a notion in an ever-shifting dreamscape. Could I ever bring it back? That question drifted through my mind like a whisper. What did it mean to let go? Or to reclaim that piece of myself? I glanced at the stone, its orange glow fading with the approach of dusk, that I never found the answers. It felt wrong to try to dissect what had happened, as if I might ruin the fragile peace I had managed to construct among the echoes of my mind. So instead, I resigned to the ambiguity of my encounters. The whispers followed me into my sleep, shadows lingering just beyond the edge of my dreams, comforting yet unnerving. That I moved on with my life, embracing the confusion and mystery surrounding those woods. Occasionally, I would see signs of the shadows, just a flicker in the corner of my eye or a fleeting laugh on the wind. I still glimpse my childhood box within the folds of memory that still seemed too vague to grasp fully. Months passed, and though I found a measure of peace, I couldn't shake the feeling that something gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. I would catch myself staring at the forest from my window, and sometimes I would think, just for a moment, even in the serenity, I still didn't belong, not entirely. As I reflect now, I often wonder if they are still watching, if the forest still holds secrets untold, or if the shadows are waiting for me to return to bring something back. But those thoughts, I let them swirl around me like a cozy blanket, embracing the ambiguity while drawing more art, forever entwined with questions that remain unanswered.